Hi everybody, it's Amalia, and I'm here today with a special Smash That Paper Pad with Deb Hauk. This is Smash That Paper Pad for May. It's a year-long monthly collab where we're going through our small paper pads and just working through them is ultimately the goal, but my personal goal is to finish a minimum of 4 paper pads. And take a look at this video right here. I'll put it in the information icon up in the corner, and you'll see there the intro video where I show you the paper pads that I intend on finishing this year. And let's see, I just finished this paper pad in the previous video for this series, but actually there were a few strips of paper left, although I called it finished. And then these are some old paper pads that I had gone through and finished in the past year or so. And I actually had some like entire sheets of paper like this, or strips of paper like this, little squares maybe this big. So I had pieces left over, but I was done with the paper pad. Oh, here's one that I'm still gonna need to work on. So there's lots of little pieces in here. But I had created a lot of cards from this paper pad and from all these paper pads, and you get to a certain point where you're done with working with the paper pad. You've had it, you're done. You know, you may be able to create something with the small little pieces left, but you know, you're willing to move on to the next project. And so all of these were pads that I was finished with. I was done, and I was still holding on to because there was stuff left in it. Previously I had just thrown these out, and but I couldn't throw these out. I held on to them for some reason. And Lindsay Wyrick, the Frugal Crafter, did a video recently about using up her scraps. And everybody does video about using up their scraps, but hers inspired me in a particular way. And even I've done videos about how you can use up your scraps. Maybe I'll post it here if I remember. And but this was a little bit different. This was, I guess, a little bit less pressure. So here are the paper pads that I've gone through and finally finished so far. There's one here. Oh, this one. This one I actually had used up so much there was nothing really left to do with, so that one goes in the trash for sure. This one I was able to do a few more these with, but I had saved these. This was from a die that I had purchased from a Scrapbook Expo, and all of these squares are not the same size. So if you cut out a piece of paper and you cut out multiple pieces of paper, they're not equally going to fit into the same square. And that was really frustrating and really upsetting. Fortunately, I went to see the vendor again another year, and she let me exchange the die for something else, which was very nice. And if the expo doesn't happen this year, which is in all likelihood, maybe a probability, who knows, but she's someone that depends on the shows and shows up every year, and if they have it, I will definitely go there to support her. So anyway, I can't really do anything with these because unless I cover up, anyway, I can't do anything with these. These are going in the garbage. Let me show you what I have done. So for this one, which was a really great card set, a really great paper pad as well, I just was able to glue some strips. So first of all, what I did was I took an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and I cut it in fours, cut it half, then half again, and then I laid down a bunch of glue, tape runner, to glue just whatever size papers I had left. So I had a lot of strips left here, and I glued them down. This was like the 5th or 6th one I had done, so I was at a point where it's like, whatever I have, I'm just gluing down. So you notice here that not all of these pieces of paper are the same length. With this one, I had a bunch of squares left over because I had made a few of these. And I had a bunch of squares that I had cut out, so I did something like this. And this could be a card front. These are basically just card fronts that you can use to pop on a card. I'm going to make a bunch of other types of embellishments with these if I can, to add to what I have as a stack for this particular set. And then I can do some pre-made sentiments, and I'm going to have a card, voila. So that's the idea. You don't have to do anything now. You're just creating card fronts. And if you have smaller pieces that you want to create an additional embellishment for the card fronts, terrific. So I'm going to keep all of those together, and then I should be able to do something really nice. I have embellishments, I have card fronts. All it needs really is a sentiment or maybe some other type of flourish. With this one right here, I created a bunch of card fronts. This one also has mismatched sizes, but I thought it was okay. I think that's still beautiful just the way it is. Then I had some of these left over, and I could still use those as embellishments on a card. This was when I was cutting all the strips to the same 3/4 of an inch size. And then I started getting a little like, all right, this is whatever, they're close enough. And then this is when I had a bunch of shapes that they were all rectangle in some way or squared off in some way. So I just kind of puzzled them together and then cut it to an even size. And I think that's going to come out great on a card. And I can do so many things with that. Right now I'm working on this, so I'll set that aside. What is this? That's a note I wrote to myself. So the next one I'm going to show you is this one. I had a lot left over in this one, and I decided to cut out a bunch of flags. I have a flag punch, so I cut out a bunch of little flags to use as embellishment. This is a whole sheet that had a bunch of these, what do they call those, cutouts? And I backed those on some matching cardstock to use those as elements and sentiments on a card. And then I had some pieces that I just cut up and more of those cutouts, and I just cut those up to make card fronts or embellishments or layers for cards, and I'll back them on some brown cardstock, because that's what's going to go with it when I'm ready to put them on a card back. So that was that one, and this has turned out really, really, really well for me, I think. So this is the next one. This was some fall, obviously, some fall paper pads. I'm kind of going through them in order backwards. This is the second one I finished up. And I had a few pages left in that, or a few, yeah, I had a full whole pages of this one and this one. I just sliced that up. And then I had some other strips left in miscellaneous ones, and it came out great. I just cut them all to about 3/4 of an inch and put them on a diagonal, and I think they look great, if I do say so myself. This one, I don't think I had enough left over to do anything with, which is great, so I just put that in the trash. Oh, ooh, here's some more, hold on. I had this left over. Look how cute that is. Sorry, can you even see that? I had made a bunch of them for some cards previously, and I had it left over. So I kept it, so that's going to be great on the front of a card. Add a sentiment to it. Happy birthday, how are you, who said what, and then I had some of these left over that were cut, and maybe I'll use them, maybe I won't. Actually, you know what? I probably won't. Or maybe I will. I could just put them on brown cardstock. So we're going to call that not finished. I'll put it back it with cardstock and then have it as some elements for a card. And this is the most recent paper pad that I had just finished. Oh no, this is actually from that set that I had done previously. So I had some strips left of those. Let's put those together. And let's see what else. Yeah, so I had some strips left over. I put them on some cardstock and it makes a really cute background. Then I decided to take out some dies. So with some of the extra paper that could fit into the dies, I cut out some balloons. So it's been a really, I started it yesterday. I was on a Zoom crop with some internet friends, and you know, I did a couple of those then, and then some more last night. But let me show you how I'm doing them. And again, I'm being really, I'm doing the minimal that I can with these, because I don't want to cut them into the same length. I did that, they came out great, but I'm gonna do it without cutting them to all the same length. So cutting them to all the same width, rather, 3/4 of an inch, or maybe you want them in an inch, whatever, looks great. It's uniform, it looks fantastic. I'm gonna leave this up here for reference. Hopefully you can see it well. But once you've got your cardstock cut, and just used ordinary cardstock. This is Michael's Recollections cardstock. I really don't like it. First of all, it says it's 8.5 by 11, but really it's 8.5 by 11 and a couple of eighths. And it's very frustrating when you cut your paper because it just doesn't work right. It's not the same size, it's not the right size. So basically you just want to cover your paper, but this is perfect for this type of thing because it's a lightweight paper, and it's just going to provide the backing that you need for to do these, and that's all you really need. So you know, depending on how you want to do it, maybe you want to do it on an angle. I would do it on an angle this way instead of this way, because you're going to need a much longer piece of paper to go across that way. So you're going to take your first piece of paper, and let's pick something nice. Let's pick this one. And just lay it across. Don't do it at too much of an angle because it'll just be a little too dramatic. Lay it across and lay it down. Then you can take your next piece, and let's take this one. I'm going to use this one in another place. I'm going to take my next piece of paper, and see, this is not the same size, and I'm going to butt it up right up against there and lay it down. And I'm going to take another piece. This is music paper, and lay it down. And this is from this paper pad, which I completed a couple years ago probably. And let's take some Santa paper, and I'm okay with that being off. That's not a big deal for me, because what I can do is just cut the paper down when I'm ready to use it. Put that up there. I'm going to put this little tiny piece right up here. And let's see what else we have. I don't want to use that. Okay, we'll go this way, and I'll use this one. And if you want to, you could lay something down over here, but I'm going to go ahead and trim this off. You can use your paper trimmer if you want to trim this off. or you can cut it with a pair of scissors. Let's grab my paper trimmer. And with the paper trimmer, I just line up my edges as best as I can. And believe me, I'm getting really good at it. And there you go. That's perfectly sliced off that way. Let's do another side. And then the other one. There we go. This little piece needs trimming. And we are all set right there. And if you want to, you can grab like some of this left over here and just stick that right on there. And you're covered that edge if you're like crazy finicky. Sometimes like I am, but usually I'm okay. And then I have a whole bunch of these pre-done. I had done them like a while ago when I first made these cards. I don't know what happened, but they were there and ready. I could just add that right there and maybe move that over, and I can add this right there, or this right there. And then there were some cutouts in the paper, and here you go. Add a little bow or embellishment or a button or something like that, and you've got a card made. So I'm going to keep these. Got a whole bunch of them all done. And that's it. Those are my card bases. I hope you like the way they came out. I hope that gave you a little bit of inspiration to use up that very little bit of cardstock. And look, these are all evenly sized. These are not, and it doesn't look terrible. Looks like a great background for a card. So go ahead, use up those card strips. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep these like in a file or in a tub or something, and I'm going to keep these on my desk, and I'm going to have access to them whenever I want to make up a card really quick. And yeah, so let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. Click thumbs up. Don't forget, there's lots of really smart, fun, creative people in this collab, and they're going to be in the description bar below, so click on their links and take a look at what they've created and how they're using up their small paper pads. Thanks a lot, everybody. Excuse me, I have the hiccups all of a sudden. Bye!